kind of wild because this was the image literally the day after our last new moon love note. And this is at my parents' property where I finished off some of my dye beds, prepping them for the winter. You can see they're mulched up, and you can also see that there's still some coreopsis and black knight scabiosa left on that rightmost dye bed because they were still blooming at that point. And we had no snow, and it was still green and growing. We had some threat of frost, and so that's why I was prepping the dye beds. And so that was October 15th. And then the weather has changed dramatically in the last month to the point where now, as we are hearing this or watching this, the snow has melted again and we are above zero. But we had a good chunk of snow already. And so this sweet little bee had a nice little break the day before, or I guess the day after our last new moon love note. And in the time since, it's been incredibly busy and we've gone into like full on holiday mode. And I feel like so much has happened. So let's just jump right into it. So when it comes to my Me Made wardrobe this month, I actually got a decent amount done considering how busy it's been. And in this video where you can see me going with my dye pots because I have been really busy this month, or I guess the last couple of weeks at least, dealing with the harvest and starting to dye things up with this year's color harvest, natural dye harvest. I made this cute little top. It's an Ogden, of course. It's kind of my go-to wardrobe. And I made it out of a bolt end that I got from the sale table at Maywa when I was there in September. And I've worn it oodles already. It's a really light organic cotton that was block printed with natural dyes. And it's probably the busiest looking piece of my wardrobe. Obviously, normally I don't wear any sort of print, but I liked this one, so I was happy with it. And so I sewed it, and then I also sewed a couple of other things this month, but hilariously it's more of like summer wardrobe things that I ended up sewing, and they obviously work fine with the layering that I tend to do for my wardrobe. Just because my body does a great job / not a good job of regulating its temperature. But yeah, I sewed this Ogden, and then I also ended up sewing a pair of shorts, and then I made my Halloween costume, and then I have started dyeing some things, including some stuff for myself, which has been nice. So these are the shorts, and they are a deer and doe pattern. The Chatang shorts, I think, is their name. I could be wrong about that. And they're high-waisted. This is the third pair that I've made, and I love them. They're very comfy because they sit at my natural waist and allow me to bloat as much as I want, which is kind of key for me as far as any of my pants go, and is abnormal in that these are not an elastic waistband, which has also become kind of my go-to since the COVID years. These have a side hidden zipper and some pleats at the front and a really cute pieced waistband, and I really like them, and I'm wearing them here with some tights that I got from Rachel, which is a Montreal based company. And this was my outfit on the night that we did our pre-Samhain supper, and you can see me wearing also that Ogden tank again and my Mortimer crow, which was also made with the scraps from the Ogden tank. And then that was our pre-Samhain supper, and then I made my Halloween costume for this year, and I was a shaggy mane mushroom, which is maybe not the most obvious from here, but I had fun with it. I wore my hinterland dress that has been dyed lightly with black walnuts, and then my love story shawl, which is a really lightweight shawl. And I kind of dirtied up my face with makeup. And then the piece de resistance is the top of my mushroom head, which I took this like woven kind of basket-esque hat and used it as the base, and then took scraps of black walnut dyed linen and logwood dyed cotton canvas and made the top. And it's stuffed with wool to kind of get that rounded shape. And then I literally attached the little kind of petally bits. They're not petals, it's just the like shaggy bits of the shaggy mane mushroom. But I attached them with a glue gun because my sewing machine was being cranky with me. And so, yep, it's a glue gun, last minute, like literally made it on the morning of Halloween so that I could greet the trick-or-treaters. Willow was supposed to be a gnome, and you can see her wearing her wool beard here, but she did not do a great job of wearing the hat, unfortunately. So we were a gnome and a mushroom this year. And then the thing that I also added to my wardrobe was this lovely wool shawl. It's a hand-woven pashmina shawl that I dyed with the coreopsis that I grew this year and that my mom spent all summer and fall picking. And then there's some of my coreopsis paint, which makes me really happy. I've been exhausting my dye pots, but I just dyed up the shawl and then decided that I was going to add some into the shop update, the holiday shop update that's coming later this month. And then I have some markets, holiday markets happening in December. So I wanted to have some finished objects in, and I love wool, and me dyeing cellulose-based things doesn't really make sense. And also there's other folks locally that do a really good job with that. So I was happy to see how well these wool shawls work. And I get them from the same place that I get a lot of my other dye supplies. So I feel comfortable with sourcing from them because they are an ethical company, and I can be like, hey, which farm did this come from and who did the work? And they can actually tell me those things, and they check on them regularly. And so for something where, like, unlike with my yarn, I can't go and visit the farms and see where it's being woven. I am planning on adding some hand weaves into my market offerings that I am doing myself, but this is kind of a nice like in between that is going to be at a more accessible price point, but also is still like me working with wool with my local dyes, and my plan with these scarves, at least to start off with, depending on how well they go, is to offer them only with the homegrown and locally grown dyes. But I guess the kind of like main thing with my Me Made wardrobe this month that is worth kind of highlighting is that there's a whole bunch of different pieces that have been added to it, and they are very much about these like kind of filling gaps as the seasons are changing, which requires, especially with how extreme our weather is, requires like actually kind of being thoughtful about, you know, what are the things that I need and how can I use them across multiple seasons and in different, you know, scenarios. And that's just kind of the practical questions that I often end up asking myself when it comes to my Me Made wardrobe. And so if you feel stumped by questions like that, or even where to get started with it, something that is fun that we're going to be doing in the Creative Coven community next month and in January as well is we're going to do a live round of the Me Made wardrobe mini course, which is something that's available 24/7 in the community. There's a really comprehensive workbook that helps you go through, and no matter what your kind of making practice is or where you are in your slow fashion and Me Made wardrobe journey, it's happy and ready to meet you there and provide you resources with wherever you want to kind of dive down next. But also it's kind of nice to get support and to be able to have like check-ins and ask questions and get you know, like moral support when something isn't going right, or be celebrated when something's going really well. And so we're going to do a live round on December 11th and 18th, and then also on January 8th 15th, 22nd, and 29th. So those are all Monday evenings, so they don't interrupt our regular monthly Zoom knit nights, which are on Tuesday nights. Also means that if you can't join us on Tuesdays, hopefully the different day gives you an opportunity to join us for a live event in the Creative Coven community. And at the time that this is going live, there are still a few days left to join us for a free month in the community because the new website went live, which I'll talk about more in the Boss Witch section. But you can join us for a free month in the community with code WELCOME PARTY in all caps. Yeah, we're gonna hang out, and so we'll kind of do a couple of check-ins in December and kind of get ourselves started, and then we'll take a break over the Yule holidays and the New Year, and then come back in the New Year and spend January really kind of like digging into things. If you've got a specific plan that you want, great. If you want to just kind of dip your toe in, that works too. But I hope you can join us for that. And then on my needles has been the giant Advent calendar pattern, and it is fabulous. As you can see, it's a ginormous shawl. It's called Folklore, and it's going to be available for individual purchase on December 1st in the store. It takes 3 full skeins of roots flock and then 3 mini taproot skeins dyed with Black Knight Scabiosa, and you can get the exact ones in this year's Advent calendar, or you can just stash bust or get stuff direct from the shop once there's a shop update later this month. And I think there's like 2 or 3 maybe Advent calendars left if you're interested. I also knit myself a pair of the Fool socks, but Folklore has been kind of the main thing this month. And I didn't initially plan to make it as big as it turned out, but I'm really happy that I stuck with it. The color work was a lot of fun to work. And the upper portion is, if you've knit my Scorpio shawl, it'll look really familiar. It's like one of my favorite stitches to do. It's a simple slip stitch cable that is just stunning. And then the fringe is optional, but I do highly recommend it because it just really kind of pulls it all together. So yeah, I'm in love. And then dye pots this month have been kind of delightful / pure chaos, and also honestly only in the last like maybe week and a half. The first chunk of this past month was like I mentioned at the top of this video, spending a lot of time with the actual harvests and getting things ready and pulled in, and then like drying things and getting everything organized. You can see my mouth moving in this video, and that's because I've been singing a lot while I've been working. Yeah, since I then got sock yarn from my friend Laura at Twin Oaks Farm, she makes one of my all-time favorite all-natural sock yarns. It's her long wool sheep blended with mohair from Wellington Fibers, which is about a 20-minute drive away from her. She's in Guelph, Ontario. They're in Elora, Ontario. Or I guess she's kind of outside of Guelph. And then it's spun also at Wellington, and it just makes such a gorgeous sock yarn, and it's a very sturdy sock yarn, which is also one of my favorite parts of it. Wellington spins a stunningly smooth sock yarn. So just across the board, like if you look at my sock patterns, I think there's like 5 or 6 at this point that have been knit with Laura's yarn or designed with Laura's yarn, and I've knit more pairs than that. But I got a lovely little batch from her, and so they're going into the shop update. So for the past week and a half or so, since the yarn arrived, I have been putting it into my dye pots and dyeing it with. So with each of the pots, I have been obviously dyeing my samples, dyeing the sock yarn. I'm also currently holding off on dyeing some of the samples in sock yarn because I'm waiting on those wool shawls to arrive. And so some of them are going to end up in the dye pot with the wool shawls as well. And I'm also making plant pigments and handmade paper. And then also with the larger dye pots, I am freezing some of the dye to use for ice dyeing on silk later. And basically just like exhausting the pots as much as possible, and then also then taking those exhausted pots and using them as much as possible, to like make as much use as I can. And I'm excited to see what I end up making with the plant pigments in particular. I recently started doing the Dogwood Dyers year of natural dyes. And Liz is like such a wealth of information and just like a really lovely human generally anyway. But I hadn't joined her year of natural dyes until recently. And part of it was that she does a really good job of not only eco printing, but her pastels and her pigment work are quite good. And so she had a tutorial on how she makes her pastels. And so I wanted to make sure I joined in time to get access to that, which I did. So my plan over the holidays is to be taking some of my pigments that I've been making and turning them into pastels as well as my paints. And then we'll see, like what artwork I make from that and things like that. So, yeah, it's been fun to be playing as much with the pots as I am. Also knowing like, I've got the holiday markets to be prepping for. I've got the shop update to be prepping for. I also have my giant art installation that I am working on. And that requires a very large amount of dye material just because of the scope of the project itself. And so having to, plan like, okay, yes, I've got all of these plants in right now. And Jennifer from Big Oak Farm supplemented me with a lot of plant material, which is awesome. I partnered with her so that she could grow me a bunch of plant material this year. And I'm buying it off of her, of course. But she just has way more space and capacity than I do to grow a lot of dye plants. But even with that, like we've got the harvest now and it needs to last until next year's harvest season because we won't have access for another year. So it's exciting and there's a lot of abundance and also a lot of like, okay, now I have to start planning things out and thinking about things quite intentionally. Because if I run out in February and I need something, I can't just like grab it. Like I can't just like hit the restock button from somewhere that has things in year round or most of the year. I can check in with my friends who also grow things and see if they have anything available that they're willing to sell me, but most of them also grow as much as they need for their purposes and don't usually have oodles left over. So in the same way that like with some of my yarns, I have to be planning things, a couple of years in advance to make sure that the flock is going to be big enough to then have enough fleeces to then get spun and da-da-da. It's a similar kind of approach when it comes to the dyes of like, okay, how much dyes am I going to need for the upcoming year? Make sure that I figure out my own gardens and then speak with farmer friends who can grow more as well and be coordinating that so that before things are going in the ground, everybody has a plan of what needs to be grown and has like committed to what that looks like. And so, yeah, I'm always like, at least 1 to 2 years ahead in terms of planning, and then hoping that things are stable enough that by the time things come around, that works, / that I haven't underestimated how much I'm going to need. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun and extremely busy and really rewarding already, which is really nice. I've had some gorgeous results from this year's harvests, and you can find the dye recipes that I've already made in the color journal and the Creative Coven community. You can also join Natural Dyeing 101 if you want to learn about natural dyeing or check out the shop update when it happens, like I said, in a couple of weeks. Best way to find out, like I don't 100% know what date that's going to be yet, just because I have a lot of photography that I need to do on top of like the general computer work and also the dyeing generally. But the photography is kind of the biggest thing because we're battling with winter skies now for the natural light. So I can't just like guarantee that any day I'm going to be able to take photos when I want or when I need. So I'm anticipating in the next couple of weeks. I don't know exactly which date. Join the newsletter because that'll be the best way / follow on Instagram and like actively check each day because that's probably going to be your best bet. But Instagram in and of itself is super unreliable in terms of like actually telling people when things are happening. So, some combo there and should help you find out when things are arriving. And then I'll also be at a couple of markets. Yeah, hopefully those things work. And my own kind of study with the natural dyeing has been fun as well. I've found some time to dig into my chemistry class with Mewa. And also, like I said, with Liz's stuff, I am just kind of in like ongoing experimentation mode while I'm doing research for my installation and also developing the school curriculum. And this upcoming month, I have some school teaching gigs that I'm doing and some public gigs that I'm doing. This past month, I had a private class that was a lot of fun to do. So yeah, just kind of keeping busy. The dye pots are kind of my most active thing that is happening right now. But give it like 2 weeks and that'll have shifted. Oh, one other thing that I'm doing with my dye pots is I'm dyeing beads with them to make some Yule tree ornaments. So those are super cute. That's another way I'm exhausting the pots. And then I'm experimenting with the dyes on quills and sheepskins and fur to see kind of how those all behave, and if I can kind of like find a good process for dyeing those things. I was really inspired when I went to Crafted this past, I guess it was like 2 weekends ago maybe, and it's an event between WAG and the art gallery here, and then Manitoba Craft Council, Northwest Territories Art Council or Craft Council, and Nunavut Craft Council. And it's just like really stunning, skilled folks at work with a lot of furs and textiles in use. And one of the things that was super cool was seeing somebody who I believe is from Winnipeg, but they dye fish scales and they dye them, from what I can tell, with synthetic dyes, but dyeing fish scales is also very possible with natural dyes. And so I kind of want to start playing with that, but I don't have fish scales at the moment. My friend is going to be sourcing some. So we're going to start playing around with dyeing fish skins and fish scales and making things with those as well. But in particular with the school curriculum, like for me, it's fun with my own just like general research and practice. But in particular with the school curriculum, I want to make sure that we have like good written and practical tutorials and exercises for kids across the province on all different types of materials, so that it's actually not just like, oh, this is how you dye on wool and this is how you dye on cotton, because there's a much broader application, and especially for the kids that live more rurally and or remote, but also just like for city kids too, it's useful to see like there are all of these ways that we can use these dyes, and you don't have to think of them in this very narrow space, and just kind of opening up that creative outlet, which also opens you up to like, okay, what's the science between like this thing versus this other thing? So I'm excited to kind of be diving into more of that over the next little while.
They say that home is I guess I haven't found my home. And we keep driving round in circles, afraid to call this place our home. And are we there yet? They say there's linings made of silver, folded inside each raining cloud. Well, we need someone to deliver our silver lining now. And are we there yet? And are we there yet? And are we there yet? Home, 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 home. They say you're really not somebody until somebody else loves you. Well, I am waiting to make somebody soon. And are we there yet? And are we there yet? And are we there yet? Home, 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 where you lie on the rug while I play with the dog. And you won't eat too much, 'cause this is too much, 'cause this is too much for me to hold. This is too much for me to hold. And are we there yet? And are we there yet? And are we there yet? Home, 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 home. And are we there yet? And are we there yet? And are we there yet? And are we there?
So I kept that in because I posted it on Instagram as well and people liked it. But I have been, like I said earlier, singing a lot while I work. And it's been a very busy period of work, but also honestly the most intense exhausting portion of the work isn't actually included in any of these videos because that was getting the new website up and running. So if you haven't gone to ashalberg.com recently, please do. This is the fun, not actually glamorous, this is literally me in real time cutting the extra strings off of the sock yarn from Twin Oaks Farm, which is very normal for mills to put. They put these extra ties onto a skein to make sure that things don't get tangled or whatever. But as a dyer, I have to cut them off because they are resists when I put things into the scouring, mordanting, and dye pots. And so it's there's all of this very unglamorous, boring stuff that happens behind the scenes, even when you run seemingly super fun, lovely, creative small business, which is what I do. But also, there's like all of these hours and tasks that are like just tedious and, dropping the skeins and all of that. But then also, while I am prepping warps for my loom, I get to sing along to songs. So yeah, it's been a very busy month with a whole lot of different things that have been on the go between harvests and prepping for shop updates and then getting the new website up and running and all of the like little bits and bobs in between all of those things. But what I can say is that when I finished the new website, and there's still like a couple of things that need to transfer over, and also if you notice anything that is not working, please let me know because I'm sure there's a variety of links that are broken and all of that stuff, as is to be expected with a brand new website. That is like a also recreation of an existing website with a lot of content on it. Is that as soon as I had it like ready to go and transferred over, my nervous system just like went, like it just settled with this exhale, and I still can feel that in my bones. Like so much of this year, especially since the spring, has been just so go, 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 go on such different projects, and with me feeling very unsure of a lot of what I was doing. Like I would feel certain enough about whatever individual project I was working on, but the way that the whole fit together and the way that I was like building the life that I wanted or was envisioning or recognizing like where things weren't going in the way that I wanted and making adjustments to align those things better. My nervous system has been on fire for most of this year, and I think I wasn't totally cognizant of it, but I was and am very cognizant of how right now my nervous system feels a lot more grounded and like it's vibrating at a much less frenetic frequency. And that feels really, really nice. And the spikes also all feel a lot more obvious when they're happening right now as a result of that. But yeah, it's been not like not relaxing necessarily because as you can see in this video, there's been a shit ton that has been happening. Like I've been extremely busy with still a lot of different things on the go. I got a not grant application written, although I've got some other ones that are now in draft form, but I got a different kind of proposal sent off, and there's always so many different balls in the air. But right now, I don't have necessarily clarity on it, like what the kind of next end point is or the next peak is. But my therapist, I've been going back to therapy recently, and it's been very nice and very good for me. She pointed out that the last 6 months were sort of like my winter, and then the last little while has been like spring, where I've been planting a lot of seeds. And now I'm at the stage of spring where there's still work to do. It's still busy. There's still things happening. But also there's this sense of like, okay, now we just wait. We wait to see what the results are from these things. We wait to see which of the seeds we've been planting decide to pop up out of the soil, which seeds we didn't remember planting and or Mama Nature decided to plant instead, which ones pop up there. And so, yeah, now it's kind of like there's like a steadiness at play, even though things are still very busy. It's now like waiting and trusting that whatever is meant to happen next will happen next. And so that's sort of where I'm at during what is, a busy time of year for any small maker business. It's holiday season, market season, and especially where honestly this year markets have not been great as far as sales, and sales generally have not been great as far as sales. It's been a hard year economically for a lot of us, and also in lots of other ways. The world's extra garbage, but also it feels like it's always that in varying ways, and sometimes it's more obvious on the surface or on the news, and other times it's less obvious. And also there's lots of beautiful things that happen too, and I think that's part of being a human, and it's a big part of what's hard about being a human. But yeah, right now I'm just kind of waiting to see what's next, and getting myself ready for what is immediately next on my to-do list, between the classes that I have coming up and the markets that I have coming up and the shop update that needs to happen. But it feels like things are kind of heading in the right direction, and I feel a lot better, at least as far as the business is concerned and as far as the website is concerned, about how I'm representing myself in the work that I'm doing and the work that I have done, and want to keep doing. So that feels really good, even if I don't have like all of the answers that I wish I could have right now. So yeah, please do check out the website. I'm really happy with it. I'm especially happy with how the online courses section looks now. You can actually like see previews of the content that is in the courses. So if you've ever thought about, trying Creative Coven because you want to be a designer, or you want to study natural dyeing with me and you've been considering doing natural dyeing 101, but you're just like not sure what's included in that, you can actually go to those pages now and see like this is what's in it. And then if you want to access it, that's where you join. But it gives a lot more clarity. If you don't want to like send me an email and wait for me to respond about like, hey, can you tell me a little bit more? Like, it actually, you can just go and figure that out for yourself, which is really nice. And the experience of taking those courses is a lot nicer. There's like trackable progress. It's just like overall a much more like lovely experience navigating the website, whether you're trying to find information about the classes I'm teaching or upcoming events, or you want to take an online course, or you want to see what art I've made and you're thinking of, commissioning something from me. There's all of those things there and made a lot more clear. And I think everyone, including me, is going to be a lot happier with it being the space to kind of come and see what's happening. And then the other thing is that for Creative Coven community members, that experience is exponentially nicer as well. It's just a lot more user friendly. You can find things easier. There's like indexes and menus where you can actually, go where you want to, but also if there's specific content you're looking for, be like, I'm a knit witch, I'm interested in the knit witch things. You can find content based off of that right from the homepage. So that feels really nice and lovely. So yeah, I think that folks will like it. And the other thing that was added are the Ackley Tales, which are these short stories that I have written for the Creative Coven community, and they are to inspire your making and your herbalism and natural dyeing and all of those lovely adventures and recipes and things. So you can find them in Mortimer. And with the Teeny Tiny Coven, obviously it's been a busy month, but I was really excited to make these cute little pumpkin houses. I saw some other folks making these like fairy pumpkins for Samhain, and so I decided to make similar ones with some moss and some sticks and pieces left over from making the actual dollhouse. And as you can see, they are perfectly fern-sized, so it's sort of like a 1/12 scale, mostly by fluke, more than anything else. I just happened to have the right size pumpkins. But that was my contribution to the teeny tiny coven this Halloween, and kids really liked it, so that was good. Willow wasn't quite as excited because she couldn't eat them, but I think that they're pretty cute. And I'll leave you this month with an image of my Samhain table. I hosted or co-hosted a Samhain supper with some dear ones. And this is Mortimer the Crow. He's an Anne Wood pattern and is also the mascot of Ackley Tales. But he's adorable and was made for Ackley Tales, but also because of the Samhain supper. And excuse how jerky it is, but we had a very cute themed harvesty supper ahead of Halloween and Samhain this year, and it was really cute. Are you waiting for the deer meat? Yeah? It's got another 10 hours. 10 hours. It's going to take a while. Yeah. And then there's more outside. Yeah, there's more. It's true.